Hello, Simon.
Hi there.
Welcome to 100x Live. Thank you for taking time to come at 100x Live show. Simon Squibb is a serial entrepreneur and host of the Good Luck Club podcast video series. He left the school at 15, retired at 40, and now he is focused on purpose over profit with his podcast, a long term dream of being able to teach people to become entrepreneurs. He has started 17 startups, and last Fluid was with no upfront capital in 2001 and sold it to PwC in 2016. He has got a variety of exciting options in terms of how entrepreneurs create luck, and he has a thesis which we would be keen to learn about it. Welcome to 100x Live, Simon. Your opening remarks on your work, and what you do right now, and what's your view on the current situation? When do we see light at the end of the tunnel? What next for startups and investors?
Well, first of all, Sanjay, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's an honor to be here and talk to you and your audience. Thank you. I'm basically an entrepreneur who, I guess, like all entrepreneurs, we tend to have a tendency of optimism. We see opportunity perhaps when other people see trouble. And so my background, very quickly, I actually left school at 15 and left home at 15. So I have near zero formal, I would say, education. And I basically started a business at 15 years old. And I failed many times. And it's a typical entrepreneurial story or entrepreneurial journey of learning by mistakes. And then I was excited when I became a millionaire at 25 years old, and then was able to travel from England to Hong Kong, where I then established 13 different businesses over the next 20 years. I have had the pleasure to invest in now nearly 60 startups, and my whole thing really has been about, in the last few years, has been about giving back. And I really believe that entrepreneurs have the opportunity to make the world a better place, to innovate old technologies and make life not only convenient but safer, I guess in a coronavirus world, cleaner, and look at a way of combating things like climate change. And so now I spend most of my time not only with my 2.5-year-old who keeps me very busy, but also figuring out how I can help people start businesses, how I can help people with existing good businesses make them great businesses, kind of the enemy of great is good sort of concept. So I really enjoy the entrepreneurial journey. I've done it myself 17 times, and now I'm focused on helping other people do the same. So as you mentioned in your kind introduction, I've got a podcast show called the Good Luck Club podcast, where I interview the world's most successful entrepreneurs and change makers and get their knowledge downloaded into a podcast that hopefully can be useful to the next generation of entrepreneurs. That's my background. And today, as I say, I'm focused on figuring out what the next big thing is, a bit like you, and helping people make that next big thing happen.
Awesome. Simon, right now, the need for idea and innovation is the biggest, right? And more than ever, we need new ideas and innovation to survive in this world. What are you seeing in the market based out of London, UK? Are founders innovating in crisis? What are you hearing talking to so many well successful entrepreneurs?
Yeah, well, first of all, I do think ideas are easy. There's plenty of ideas out there. I don't think the idea piece is ever difficult. I probably speak to 10 people a week with an idea, and I think we're all looking for people that can execute. Execution is the hard thing. But I am seeing a lot of waves of trends. I think before coronavirus, the big push I saw happening was fintech, of course, the banking sector being disrupted left, right, and center. Of course, I think that's still happening. But just recently, you asked what I've been seeing, and a lot of people have been pitching to me mental health related startups. And I think there's, of course, addressing the whole people are locked at home for a long period of time. People are stressed, living in fear, I guess, somewhat with the coronavirus news and hype. So a lot of people, I think, are suffering mental health wise. So I think just last week I had 6 people pitch to me a mental health app of some sort. And I do think it's one of those things that you can do online. You can connect people, for example, to health professionals that can help people who might be struggling. I see it as a positive. I think people talking about their mental health and accepting that maybe they need to get some help is a good thing. And I can see a lot of startups trying to address that market and that opportunity, I guess. I also think online education is a big wave. There's a whole disruptive nature of the coronavirus that's caused parents to have to do homeschooling. I think homeschooling has accidentally become mainstream in the last few months. And I see a lot of people jumping into that space. And I think it's a good space to innovate in. So a lot of my theory around the coronavirus situation is that a lot of what's being disrupted was getting disrupted anyway. So high streets, for example, in England, they were already getting devastated by the likes of Amazon. And of course, it's all now beaten up because no one's even going outside, no matter going onto a high street and buying stuff. But so, a lot of it for me is just speeding up the opportunity, and you've got to move a bit faster. You've got to work a little harder. But I think right now, in fact, you can see it's all about online. Even the way, we chat and communicate with people now. I was having, 2 mentor sessions a day helping startup founders. Now I'm having 5 mentor sessions a day on Zoom or whatever instead. So things are just changing. And I think in some respects for the better.
So as rightly said across, the things are accelerating. Things were set to disrupt. Now it's on an accelerated mode, which is happening across. Now coming to the key crux and the main topic, Simon, which everybody, all of us want to hear across is, what is the role of luck in life success, right? And we believe that luck plays a big role. Our most successful people which are there in the society are just luckiest people, or is there something behind luck?
Yeah, well, let me just tell you a little story about my own history. So I basically built quite a few companies and I've been successful. So on paper, I've got a typical entrepreneurial journey that most people desire. And I sat down to write my book about, frankly, how brilliant I was and how I'd managed to get the timing right and how I'd worked hard and, all of these things that I think these self-help books promote. I feel like, I had the story to, share with people about, how to be successful. I took a chance. I went to Hong Kong. I started all these companies. Most of them failed. And I had 3 that were a big success. So I was ready to write that book. And as I wrote the book, I felt like there was something missing. It just read, when I read it back to myself, like every other book out there. So I really thought about what was missing from the content that would be useful to people. What was the truth? How did I really make it? And as I broke down my stories, and let's take PwC buying my agency Fluid. To be honest, it was luck. That's what happened. I realized that, yes, I built a great company. Yes, I'd worked hard. But the fact that PwC, one of the big 4, had decided to pivot and start offering marketing, creative, digital services to their existing Fortune 500 audit clients, what was luck? I didn't build that business with the hope that one day one of the big 4 would buy it for an enormous amount of money. I just built a good company, but I got lucky that PwC decided to buy up, all the independent large agencies like mine. So basically, as I broke down this concept of luck, I started realizing that there was 4 or 5 moments in my life that if those lucky things hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have been successful. I wouldn't be able to retire at 40 years old.
All the success you are crediting to luck. I mean, there is very little where you believe that an entrepreneur can create luck. What's your view? Can somebody create luck?
So my view is simple. I think there are, in fact, 2 definitions of luck. I think at the moment in the dictionary, there's only one. It's defined as random. And I think there is a second definition needed to be added, and I'm on a mission to get it added in. And that there is an element of luck is a skill. So for me, luck is a skill, and it's also a second definition of random thing. And basically, there are a few principles behind it. I mean, the principles, they're out there in the market. There's an interesting writer called Gary Kanishi. He's written up a whole thing about luck. But basically, an element of it is the luck that I feel I had was a combination of skill and chance. So, for example, you have to build up your risk muscle. this is a fear. A lot of people have fear of loss. It's much stronger than the desire for gain. There's quite a well-known advertising thing where if you say to someone, you know, I can save you £1 or $1, or you know, if you switch to my service, or you say, did you know it costs you £1 to not be using my service? The second one is always a much more exciting offer to people. It's exactly the same offer, but did you know it costs you is so much more powerful than you can save. So primarily because basically people don't want to take risk. That's the instinct of humans. So part of being lucky is, and why I think luck is a skill, is learning to build up your risk muscle. I think fear stunts people's luck. So a lot of the time, if you let fear be a negative thing, it stops you in your tracks. But actually, fear is an asset. Fear is also a gift. It's a talent that was given to us for survival. A lot of people run away from fear. So an example would be, you know, the way it used to be, fear, if we saw something happening in front of us, fear would give us the adrenaline and the power to push through. But what happens in today's world is people have fear and they want to get rid of it as quickly as possible. So whatever was making them scared, they stop. But actually, the way I've worked is when I have fear, I use that fear to run faster, to do more. So when I'm fearful that my business isn't going to work, I don't want to stop that fear and mitigate it by shutting down the company or raising money and getting into debt or whatever it may be. Instead, I fight because that's what fear's a skill. And so I leverage that time of adrenaline and I push through. So I think fear does stunt people's luck because they don't leverage it enough. And then there's an element of persistence. This is another ingredient to creating your own luck. I often tell founders that I work with, you know, that persistence is really the main key element in their job role. You know, lots of talented people don't make it. And it's because they have the talent, but they're just not persistent. And it's kind of the 9 rules of sales, which is, you know, my early years, basically I built my businesses mainly on sales. And so most people, they follow the 3 rules of sales, which is they follow up 3 times. And then if they don't hear anything anymore, they move on. I follow the 9 rules of sales, which is basically you just keep kindly, gently, politely pushing until you get the result. And so I think a lot of people give up. They make excuses. And they don't have this element in their life, which I call purpose.
To build risk muscle first and foremost, and face the fear and use it to your advantage. And if you can just delve into your sales side of it, what you started, how and what is the way that you move about creating your sales, and what are the things entrepreneurs can learn from your experience?
Well, you know, when I was 15 years old, I started my own first company, and I basically it was a very simple business. It was a gardening company. I set up a system to take care of people's gardens because they didn't have time to take care of them. So, to start that business, I didn't buy any equipment. I didn't get any fancy brochures. I just went to someone's front door and I knocked on the door and I said, would you like me to take care of your garden? The first 2 people said no. Now, that if I'd been a weaker individual, or frankly, I had no money at that time, so I needed to eat. So the third door was no choice for me. For a lot of people, they would have given up and said, you know what, no one really wants this. And so I'm just going to move on. So basically, you know, that persistence piece is so important. The risk muscle piece is more, as I grew the business, I had to hire people. And of course, as soon as you put someone on payroll, you suddenly feel a sense of fear. There's a fear you've suddenly got that responsibility of that cost, that fixed cost. But if you can push past it, what I discovered, and most entrepreneurs know, is that every time I hired someone, I actually made more money because I had the ability to do more work and charge more invoices, create more invoices and get more money in. So all I had to do was first of all, control that fear and then push through, hire that person and then manage the business well and it will grow. But a lot of people just can't build that fear up. As soon as they feel fear, they think it's a bad thing and they try to stop it. And I'm saying that you have to push through the fear. You have to keep growing. You have to push the company to the limit where you are spending the money you've received from investors and you are pushing the business forward. I hear way too many people when they've raised money say, I just want to extend my runway. And they get fearful of running out of money instead of getting excited about the potential of growing their business. And so, you know, that's that's where the fear of failure comes in. And actually, I think I love failure. I've learned so much from my failures. I'm so advanced in my risk muscle now that I actually love the idea of failure. It excites me to try something, and if it doesn't work, so what? But a lot of people feel exactly the opposite because they haven't worked out their risk muscle enough.
So there are entrepreneurs who would be working very hard, and they would have invested a lot of time and are persistent. But there comes a situation where it's like a living dead, right? And you mentioned about quitting kind of stuff, or I mean, not quitting and being persistent. And idea is at some point in time, if things don't work out, you want to quit and move to the next. Where do you think this luck plays across? Is there Are people born with luck? What's your view on this?
Well, there is Buddha once said, everybody gets 10,000 hours of bad luck and 10,000 hours of good luck. And so I think there's an element as well of, I personally feel like I've had 20,000 hours of good luck. Why? Perception. So, sadly, when I was 15 years old, my father died. And so, of course, that was an awful moment in my life, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody, certainly not a 15-year-old. But in some strange way, I love my life today. I've got a wonderful life. I feel very content. I've had a good career. I enjoy what I do. And I do, in some respects, credit that to my father. He gave me a gift in a way, because when he passed away, I suddenly could take chances. I left home. I started a business. These things my father wouldn't probably have let me do, because he wanted me to he wanted me to be a lawyer. He didn't want me to be an entrepreneur. He wanted me to be a lawyer. So, in part, I kind of could go out there and create something. So what I'm trying to get to here is that something awful can happen to you in life, which seems like bad luck. But in some respects, in retrospect, later down the line, is in fact good luck. So I think everybody has an equal amount of good luck and bad luck. And the difference is only how you perceive it.
Okay, fantastic. So try to find the good things. But there are notions about, where if you get a co-founder and things fail, or you hire a team member, do you believe people bring bad luck to any startups? What's your view on people bringing bad luck?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of superstitions around the world. I lived in China for a long time, so the number 4 is a negative word. In England, it's 13 is a bad number, an unlucky number. And so I think that it's an interesting thing. A lot of the time, again, I think it's superstition creates perspective, and perspective creates the reality. So, on my podcast show, I've interviewed some amazing people, but I interviewed one guy, a guy called Hugo Tabar, and he actually has invented a program called kinesiology. It's quite a fascinating discipline. He invented it, and he said it was downloaded to him from somewhere. He doesn't know where it came from, but it's completely reinvented. Anyway, his whole thesis is that you can manifest things. So if you imagine that someone comes into your company and they bring you good luck and they're a positive force, then ironically, that will be true. But if you believe that something or someone brings you bad luck, ironically, would also be true. So it's kind of like, again, I don't know if there's superstitions like this in India, but here, if a black cat walks in front of you, it's considered bad luck. But what that really does to people is it changes their mindsets to, I'm going to have some bad luck today. And they look out for something to happen and call it bad luck. And so that's kind of my view on it.
We have got one question coming up on LinkedIn, which says from Dr. Mahindra Rajpal, how to overcome the fear of losing the idea?
Okay, so I guess he's talking about when you pitch an idea to someone and you're scared that someone's going to take it.
Yeah.
Is that the frame? Is that the question?
Yeah. How does one, move out the fear of losing an idea?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually had this question a lot in my career. I absolutely think ideas are cheap. I mean, Facebook was a copy of MySpace. MySpace was a copy of Friendster, and Friendster was a copy of a restaurant. Sitting down talking to friends. At the end of the day, there's no such thing as an original idea, really. There's an original execution. There's an original team. There's the determination piece, the persistence, the follow through, whatever it is. And luck, that's what matters. And I think An idea means nothing. I tell people all the time, I put up yesterday on my YouTube channel 7 ideas that I think each of them are worth $1 billion. And each of them, I could hold on to one of those ideas, not share it, and maybe 1, they'll never happen. And 2, who's going to execute them? So I've got an idea, and I share with people now. I've got an idea where I think the property agency world can be completely renovated so that when you sell a property, the profits go towards solving the homelessness crisis globally. I think property transactions should be linked to a purpose. But I don't care if someone else does it, first of all. Second, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well for a purpose. So it doesn't really matter if other people hear the idea and copy it. But most of the time when you share an idea, what actually happens is people pile on to try and help you. People and I know, as an investor yourself, Sanjay, you'll know this. Once people trust you with their idea, then you're able to figure out how to help. If people don't share their idea with you, or they're living in fear of the idea being stolen, this is exactly what I'm talking about around fear. People need to build up the risk tolerance to fear, because fear will stop you sharing an idea. But what fear should do is drive you to make the idea happen. Because what you're actually saying is, it's such a good idea. If I don't share it, it's not going to happen. But what actually happens is people say, I've got such a great idea, but if I share it, someone else will steal it. Why? Because they're not executing quickly enough on it.
So we have a question from Deepak saying that how to pick an idea among many ones. Do you have any formula?
Well, that's an entrepreneurial struggle. I think even worse than that is you're running a business and you get sidetracked with another element or another idea. That's a big pitfall I see founders fall into, including me. I've fallen into that hole. I'm building a business that's working, and then I've started something else on the side. So staying focused, I think, is very important. But again, this is part of my thesis around luck, which is, to reach a destination, you must have one. You must have a clear aim of where you're going. So I think sometimes don't get distracted. If that idea or that additional thing helps you reach your destination, then fine, include it. If it detracts from getting to the destination that you've set yourself on the path to, then don't get distracted. Don't do it. I think saying no is one of the most powerful things in business. Learning to say no is a real skill. It's taken me a long time to learn to say no to opportunities. But that's one of the reasons I quite like angel investing, because I can get to say yes to ideas without necessarily having to run it. So that kind of feeds my need to do many things while focusing on my own thing, like the podcast show.
Yes, power of no is much, much valuable. We've got one more question, one idea popping up saying that, Abhijit, what are the chances of plant-based protein after post-COVID-19? You have any views on this idea?
I must admit, I don't know much about it. I know that that's another thing I'm seeing a trend of right now. A lot of natural products, a lot of grow your own food movements. And so, I think there's definitely always room for healthier products that are going to damage the planet less, that are plant-based. There was a whole series on Netflix recently about how important plants are, and there is an argument that animals get in the way of getting the proteins we need because they're processing plants, which we're then eating. So anyway, there's a whole thesis that we should cut out meat and eat plant-based stuff. And I'm not saying I believe that. I think that meat plays a part in our diet. Personally, having said that, I can see that to that question, there's always going to be room for a new market player in anything food related that's healthier, going to reduce the carbon footprint when produced, and going to make people healthier.
Okay, cool. Another question typically which comes across when discussing luck is, can luck be passed to other people, right? And does this rub on people? Is this like you be with lucky people and luck rubs on you? What's your view?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I mean, the typical thing you hear is, surround yourself with positive people, and you'll be more positive. Surround yourself with smart people, and you'll grow your intellect. I mean, that's certainly true for me. My wife is much smarter than me, but slowly over the last 20 years, we've been together 20 years, I've caught up. And now when we discuss things, I can sometimes win. So I really believe that she's made me smarter. And but I also think in business, I've always hired people that I think are smarter than me. I've always hired people that I think know something I don't know. So, I'm not going to go away and learn to be a doctor, but I can hire a doctor to work on one of my businesses. So, I can also save time by hiring smart people. I think the lucky transfer question, again, if that person comes in and their risk tolerance is higher than yours, that can help increase your luck, because you learn, for example, someone might say, let's go and do this. And you'll be like, oh, I'm not so sure. And they'll go, come on, we can do it. If their risk tolerance is higher than yours, they can help you lift your risk tolerance. So it's a bit like endurance running. If someone's running longer and faster than you, eventually you want to keep up, right? So maybe you run a little harder and you learn to go faster. And I have found that to be true. I have worked with people that have, in my early career, when I was 17, 18, 19 years old, I worked with some people that just took incredible risks that I felt uncomfortable with, but I learned through them to get stronger and enjoy fear. I learn to love fear. I love fear. People see fear as a negative word. It's such a wonderful thing. When I feel fear, I know that's when I'm supposed to run towards it, So yes, I think you can get luck, but it does break down. It's not someone rubs their shoulder against you and whatever, they're wearing rubs on you and suddenly you're lucky. But I think if they've got one of these attributes of, they know their destination and they can help you get there, or they're persistent, or they've got a high risk tolerance, then they can teach you these things, or that stuff can rub off on you, and that can increase your chance of luck.
Sure. So how would you, define luck, fate, timing? What is the difference between all of them? And is there any way that you can control your luck, fate, timing? Is there any process or steps to control all these three, or are these one?
I mean, it's a good question. And in my podcast show, quite often when we talk about luck, people bring up the concept of fate. And, I like to debate this because it's an interesting area. But to be honest, I think there is a difference. I think luck, a lot of what happens luck-wise can be controlled. Your bad luck and good luck are really about perception. So it's a controllable perception. And like I'm talking about my sad event in my life, I actually perceive it in some respects as a lucky event, although I wouldn't wish it on anyone. So I think luck is actually controllable alongside the building up your risk tolerance, building up your persistence, building up your ability to understand where you're going. But fate, on the other hand, will happen anyway. So to me, fate, it's a bit like, fate plays out when, you're born into a certain family. Let's say that family's got money. There's a high chance your fate is that you won't be poor. There's an element of fate which I think is almost, unless my family was rich and lost all their money, so it can happen. But my point is that often there's a fate element playing into it. But I think your fate is actually determined by your luck and timing. And timing is a very interesting one. So I break it down this way. Luck is controllable. Fate will happen anyway. And timing is, again, can be good and can be bad. Timing sometimes, for example, I launched a comic book in India called the Mahabharata, a book called Devashad about the Mahabharata. And I was actually ahead of my time with that product. We created a kind of Marvel, DC Comics style product, a beautiful product. I've still got it on my shelf here at home. I absolutely love it. All about the Mahabharata. And my idea was to take that amazing story that I know everyone in India knows, but no one in America knows, and no one in Europe knows, and turn it into this superhero comic book. And we made it. It's a beautiful product, but we were ahead of our time. The timing was off. The idea was good. The idea is still good, but we were a little early. People in America didn't feel comfortable hearing about an Indian story. It might be different now. My timing might be better now. I don't know when the right timing is, but timing is one of those things that can be good or can be bad. But luck is controllable and fate will always happen. So there's kind of a combination going on there. But I think without luck, you're definitely not going to be successful. Fate, you can argue, I was successful or not, that's fate. So there's always a retrospect argument on that. And timing is always one of those things that I think actually helps you define what's important to you in life. So I'm glad in some respects that the comic book didn't work, because I did a deal with Harvey Weinstein almost, and I wouldn't want to be in business with him today. So I'm glad it didn't work out, or at the time I wasn't happy. But timing is can be a good thing and a bad thing as well.
Sure. So your advice to, we define startups into B2B and B2C entrepreneurs, and these are uncertain times, and there is a crisis. What are your advice to B2C startups and B2B startups, right? What should entrepreneurs be doing in both the spaces?
Yeah, I think the B2B and B2C stuff's getting a bit confusing for people these days. I have this conversation about with people about Facebook and who's the client. And a lot of people get confused about who the client is. If you're a user of Facebook, a lot of people think, well, then they're the client, right? And so actually, of course, if something's free for you, the consumer, you're actually the product. You're part of the product mix. So your data, your information is being sold directly or indirectly. If someone's giving you something free, then that's how they're monetizing it, by using often your data. So B2C and B2B are getting confused for people. Now, on the founder side, I also think sometimes people get confused. People start a business and they get confused. Is this a B2B or is this a B2C business? Often they say it's both. But I think that's a mistake. And if you look at the ones that have been successful in this space, people like Salesforce, they have worked very hard on ensuring that it's a B2B platform and everything they build is built to help businesses. So yes, there's individuals using it and there's individuals that aren't companies that are using it, but they stay focused on servicing the B2B. So I got an idea pitched to me yesterday, and a kind of new Bitcoin kind of idea. And it was fascinating, but they were confused about whether it was for the retail shops or the retail businesses online, or whether it was for the consumer that was carrying the potential Bitcoin around with them. So, I think that's important for entrepreneurs to be very clear which sector they're servicing. Back to my point about luck, what is your destination? You must have one. And if your destination is to service a B2B, then stay focused on that. And if your destination is to service a B2C, focus on that. There might be a point where they converge. And I think Facebook's trying it by creating their own cryptocurrency, for example. They're starting to try and make the user their customer, not just part of the product. But I think there's a time and a place to switch on the B2C or switch on the B2B. And my advice to people is just stay very focused.
Sure. We have got a follow-up question on your Mahabharata comment. How much spirituality plays a role in entrepreneur's life? Any comments or views on this?
Yeah, I guess I'm an atheist Buddhist. I think, I'm always open to people convincing me there's a God. I love debating it. But I think my spiritual piece comes more from, I just like to do good. I like to see people succeed that are good people. I like people that have businesses with purpose. And that's kind of my spiritual piece. I like the idea that, I'll leave this world in better shape than I found it. I'll leave a better place for my son to live in. So, anything that I feel that where people are doing businesses with purpose, that's my spiritual avenue. The Mahabharata actually, as a story, fascinated me, partly because, you have these gods that, have children with humans, and these children become, slightly flawed. They're good and they're bad, but the good people do bad things and the bad people do good things. And that's what appealed to me. In America, Superman, for example, he's always so good and wonderful and he never does anything wrong. And, but that's just not the way the world really is. I mean, I've got a book coming out soon, and in that book, I talk about how I have done some naughty things. Let's say, I've worked hard. Of course, I've tried to do the honourable thing my whole life, but I have made mistakes, and I think that's human. I think no one's perfect. So, but I draw more from not from a god really, but more from what feels right. I like to do the right thing. And I have my own moral compass as to what that is. But I never steal anybody's idea. For example, I would never treat anybody with disrespect. I think there's certain things, but it's not a spiritual thing. I think it's just an instinct thing to do good.
Sure. So, lastly, if you can tell something about Good Luck Club, what is it about, and how can one benefit with it? If an entrepreneur wishes to join the Good Luck Club, how can one go about doing it? What is it in for them?
Thanks, Sanjay, for giving me a chance to plug my podcast again. Thank you so much. Well, I mean, to be honest, I'm retired these days, and I think with the coronavirus hitting so many small businesses and so many entrepreneurs so hard, I just wanted to be around to help. That's how it started. So I just came online each morning and said, look, if you've got a business and you need some help, just come online and I'll try and advise you. And slowly, I'm getting hundreds of people every week saying they've got all these different problems. It's a bit overwhelming for one person, being me. So I decided to start two things. One was a podcast called the Good Luck Club, which you kindly plugged a few times. And that podcast is really about interviewing people that are pushing through the coronavirus and how are they doing it. It's also talking to people like yourself, Sanjay, people that are investing in startups, and give some advice to people out there that are looking to raise funds. Basically talking to, successful entrepreneurs and change makers, downloading their knowledge into a place where those people out there that are listening, that need help and need advice and need guidance, need inspiration, can tap into that content, listen to those successful entrepreneurs that are fighting back against coronavirus, learn from them, and hopefully picks them up that day and makes them fight harder. That's one part. The second part that I'm building out now is what I'm calling Entrepreneurs Helping Entrepreneurs. So it's right now a group on Facebook. So anyone that's interested can ping me. You can go on my website, simonsquibb.com, and let me know. If you're an entrepreneur out there that wants to help another entrepreneur, you can join this network. Equally, at the same time, if there's anybody out there that's struggling right now and needs some help, you can also go to my website, simonsquibb.com. Tell me what your problem is, and I will find someone to help you. If I can't help you, and 9 times out of 10, I can at least give a bit of advice, hopefully that's useful. But if I can't help you, I can find someone that can. So I've had quite a few people contact me looking for help in India, and I put them Sanjay's way, for example. I think there's a lot of people out there that need help, and they don't know where to turn. And so for me, it's really about creating platforms for no profit. This is not about making money. I make no money from any of this. My whole idea is just to share information and get people the information they need to be successful. Knowledge is power, and so on. But equally, at the same time, create a network of people that are there to help you. And I think entrepreneurs get overlooked a little bit. We get classed as either capitalists or people that can just do it on their own. And I felt quite lonely as an entrepreneur at points in my career. And I wish I'd had access to, a mentor or a coach, or I wish I knew the difference between a mentor and a coach. I wish I had access to someone that was going through something similar, and we could just lean on each other. So that's it. In a way, an entrepreneur feels like an alcoholic. You've got a problem, and sometimes it's nice to talk to another alcoholic. That makes sense.
Yeah. So this is a good opportunity. Startups, entrepreneurs, please grab this opportunity to get mentored and take help from Simon. He's all open and helping for a purpose without any intention to make money. We have got a follow-up question on your timing point. Building a startup based on current crisis as an opportunity might be shoehorned or tactical. Any views here, Simon?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, timing for me, it's an important element for what's important for you. I think a lot of people don't search into their own soul about, timing. It's not so much the external factors. To me, that doesn't really matter. I think it's an internal thing. Like my comic book, it was the right time for me to do it. I wanted to experience building that product. I went to India many times and had wonderful experiences. And so it was just the right time in my life to try that out. Now, it wasn't the right timing for the product in the market, so that's a different thing. But I'm still glad I did it. So even though it wasn't a success, I think timing-wise, it was right for me. But timing-wise for the product, it wasn't. So I think to answer the question there in a more direct way, I absolutely think there's a huge amount of opportunity right now. Everyone's online at home in England right now, for example. That's a huge opportunity for anyone that creates content. There's been no better time for a young person to start a business. You literally, in my first setup, I mean, all of it cost me next to nothing just to get online and start talking to people. And you can do it. And there's people sitting at home waiting to consume your content. Why not try? But does that mean that the timing is right when you hit the market with your idea and you're going to be successful? Maybe not.
So we have taken enough of your time. Beyond 30, we are extended. Thank you, Simon, for staying on the show. Can I request another 5 minutes? We can do a rapid fire closing comments.
Sure, of course.
Sure. Thank you so much. So let's start with the rapid fire. If given a choice, what would you want to become, an entrepreneur or an investor?
Entrepreneur.
Oh, nice. Which are the 3 sectors you would put your money on now?
Probably purpose-driven businesses, healthcare, and job reskilling.
Okay. You have been to India. You understand India better. You have experienced India. 3 words to describe India. 3 words.
Complicated, strong, optimistic.
That's nice. It's a complex country for sure. In your order of priority, if you were to invest and if you were to rank, what would come first? I'm giving you 5 options, and just rank in your priority. What would you look at first? Founders, market size, business model, more.
Sorry, this is the problem with working from home in lockdown in London, folks. There's someone coming to my front door, I think, and my dogs have decided to bark. I do apologise. Brando, shush, please. We're live around the world. Please don't break any more noise. Thank you, guys. Sorry about that, listeners. Sorry. I've got 2 beautiful dogs, street dogs, that love to protect the home. That, or they're trying to give the answer to your question. So, I mean, just to the top of my head, Sanjay, I think the obvious answer, number one, is founders.
Okay.
I think founders is, the key to it all. I mean, you can see a market size, you can see an opportunity. There's all these things that you can do without the right people leading it. It's not going anywhere. So I think founder number one always.
Okay. Next.
But I guess. So remind me, what was the others? Founder,
market size, business model, valuations, moat. Founders,
I think the remaining ones. I think for me the remaining ones are all linked. In a way they're all linked because it's not there's no order, because I think you need ideally all of them. But I actually don't really care. If I was to, the one I like least is the economic moat, the Warren Buffett, economic moat bit. I know the theory very well, and I get it. If you want to create a monopolistic business, the economic moat piece, I get it. But I also think that doesn't matter so much. I think that can be created over time, first of all. And second, economic moat can sometimes just come from brand value. So I'm a brand person. I love building brands. And so there's no economic moat between one shampoo company and the next. There really isn't, if you look at it from a practical perspective. But what does create an economic moat of sorts is brand. But that wouldn't be how people normally perceive an economic moat. But I see it really as unimportant. Moats dry up pretty quick, in my view. And so if you build a business based on economic moat, you can soon find yourself in a boat with no water.
Sure. What would you choose, single founder company or team of founders? What would be your choice?
I've invested in both and had success and failure in both setups. I personally, as a founder, I've enjoyed having a co-founder. I enjoy that. I like working with other people. So if I get that chemistry right, I built businesses on my own. I haven't enjoyed it as much. I like working with someone else. That being said, I've seen, depends on the personality of the person, but I've seen people that are very good single founders and they couldn't work with someone else just because they've got a skill set that crosses, more than one discipline. So they find it hard to trust anybody else or let go and so on with someone else. So the short answer is I think both work. If I had to pick one, I think it's always better co-founder.
Okay. So you'll go with the team. And on the closing comment, what would be your views on 100x VC investment model, where we are trying to invest in the first check, in 100 companies every year, trying to build a large portfolio of startup? What's your view on that kind of investment model?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I guess I'm on your show, and I have to be, respectful to you. I would never say rubbish ideas. I don't know. What are you doing? Rubbish. No. I genuinely think it's a really, really good idea. I mean, I've spent a lot of time looking at what you're doing because I'm a fan, and of course I recommend people to you. Plus, at one point we co-invested in a business together, so I have a lot of respect for you, and I admire what you're doing. I like things that you're doing, like the safe notes system too. I think that's very transparent. You're very open, and I think that's something that more people need to be. Just this is how we invest, and you create almost like a system that everyone can understand and respect. It's not a complicated document that you're investing upon. What I like about what you're doing a lot is this whole idea that you're there from the beginning with people, and I think what's different about you as well, the way you position it and your communications, is that you'll help people get the next round of funding, which I think a lot of people focus so on. We'll help you get clients, or we'll help you grow the business, but quite often they just need the next round of funding. So I think it's very, very focused.
Sure. Simon, on the closing, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was actually going, just to keep it balanced. I was going to make one criticism, and
Sure.
just for the sake of being genuine and authentic on these sorts of questions. And I can't find much flaw in what you're doing. The only thing I would always kind of hint at, and maybe it's more a question for you, is why not everywhere in the world? Why restrict it to investing only in Indian startups? I think there could be companies that you could fit what you're doing, and you could bring them to India, for example. And I think that would be the one area that I would evolve over time with your model. I know it sounds like you're then very focused, but I also think it's restricting. What's your view?
So we have another vehicle which is called Mehta Ventures, which is a family office. We have a Delaware fund, and we have a portfolio of now over 50 plus companies through Mehta Ventures, which invests in global companies. My brother runs that. It comes from the same family pool, while I focus on the India side of it. So anything which is global, I push to my brother Herschel. He's based out of LA, and he does all the.
He just connected to me on LinkedIn, actually. Funnily enough, I wondered who he was because he had the same surname as you. I just realised who he is now. Okay, yeah. So he just asked to be my friend on LinkedIn.
Simon saying that how can we connect to Simon? Would you like to give some email ID or some place to where people?
Yeah, sure. You can go on my website, simonsquibb.com. So SQUIBB. So you can go on my website, and I always reply to everybody that ever writes to me on that website. So you can send me a message through there. And you can also connect to me on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Simon Squibb. So if you want to get any more of my content, and finally, if you go on Spotify or Apple Music or iHeartRadio, any of these broadcast channels, you can type in the Good Luck Club podcast, and you'll see my podcast show on those platforms. Again, you can connect to me through those.
Thank you so much on that positive note, founders and entrepreneurs watching this 100x live session. It was great to understand the whole context of luck, fate, timing, and you were very candid in terms of giving your insights and your learning. So, I would say these are hard-learned lessons which you shared with the audience. Thank you so much, Simon, coming on the 100x live show. Folks, stay safe, stay home. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Sanjay.